everybody, C.NOTE here, and welcome to Dopamine, the show that is all about mental health empowerment. And if you've been following along with the last few videos, we are doing a series of videos about Personality Development 101. This is sort of a free sample in the beginning of what is the full Personality Development 101 course, all about Myers-Briggs development and how to use it in your personal growth going forward in your life. And the full course is going to be filled with more advice and information and details about how you can use this when you're transitioning from some sort of external thing into understanding and trusting yourself more as a person, and how you can go forward with this, or even start to learn how you can help type other people in your life. So there's Personality Development 101. We're going to do then a cognitive functions course, and then we're going to do a passive typing course. So if any of those things are interesting to you and you want to get involved in any of those, let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you have questions specifically around any of those topics. And if you're interested, I'll make sure that you know and you get the first dibs on when those things become available. So today we're going to be talking about introversion and extroversion. What do those really mean? I think a lot of people have a sort of vague notion, a general sort of public idea of what introversion and extroversion is. And usually it's centered around people. It's like, I like people, I don't like people. But that's not it. It's not that simple. The Carl Jung version of introversion and extroversion, the Myers-Briggs version of introversion and extroversion, is all about how you recharge. What is your sense of reality? So introversion is all about your mind, the inside world, being your sense of reality. It's the thing that you trust. It's, your own experiences, whether it's the decisions you've made or the way that you've experienced. You kind of learn. You learn from yourself or your past. It kind of depends on, your personality type. But the type of introversion that you experience is usually a version of wanting to spend more time to yourself and needing a little less sensory information around you. And so that could translate to people but for the most part, I think being an introvert doesn't mean you don't like people. And being an extrovert doesn't mean you like people. Plenty of introverts can go out and do public speaking and be a part of a crowd and actually, fit in quite well. Usually the amount at which they can do that is going to vary. But at the end of the day, them being introverted, they're going to have to, life is, their brain is going to call them back and say all right, we need to go home. We need to turn off all the lights. We need to coalesce all of this stuff and, take it all in and work it all out in our heads. Whereas extroverts are going to be the opposite, essentially. They're going to see the outside world as the real world. That means all the action is outside. That means I'd rather go where the people are or go where the world is. It doesn't necessarily have to be people focused. There are some extroverts that are like, I don't stand people. But, they're going to have a little bit of an easier time in their comfort around people, sharing the energetic space. They don't feel necessarily drained by people necessarily. And being able to exist in the outside world it's not exhausting, because the outside world is where all the things happen, right? Whether, again, that's making decisions or learning from the outside world. So introversion and extroversion as a preference, again, it depends on what your sense of reality is and then how you recharge. So while extroverts are definitely going to need time to themselves, it's not going to be as much. So what's funny is that there's this sort of popular notion these days of being an introvert being a little bit more popular. There's something about being quieter, being the opposite of too much. There's this desire for a lot of extroverts to be more quiet or be perceived as quieter, that they will refer to themselves as introverts because they may have identified that they do need some time alone. It doesn't mean you're an introvert. You can have you have an introverted side of you, but if you're spending 2-3 days out in the world most of the time and it's not fazing you, then you're more likely an extrovert. Sitting in front of the TV for 2 hours by yourself doesn't make you an introvert. And as we get further along, especially when we get into cognitive functions, the way in which you extrovert or introvert is very important to know what gives you energy and what is actually going to get you the most recharge. So for me as an INTP, introverted thinking is the cognitive function that I use as a part of being an INTP. So again, this is that goes into cognitive functions. It's going to be a little too much. But for me, as the type of introversion that I use, I need to do some research. I need to think about things. I need to think about the cold analytical data of what I've experienced in the outside world. Where some people are going to be more emotional, they might need to read more fiction books or story-driven things and, kind of absorb that. And others need to literally just sit still and do nothing, and that's going to be what they need to recharge as an introvert. The same is true for extroverts. There's going to be varying types of extroversion that's going to get you different types of energy. So there's going to be, when we go through cognitive functions, that's going to be all about, what that actually means for you to get energy as an extrovert. But for the most part, the idea that the outside world is the real world, that's where you want to spend more time, is what extroversion is. And then spending more time internally is what introversion is. In a nutshell, that's sort of like the vague explanation of that. But it's important to remember, it's not about whether or not you experience people. It's not about, because, some people are in your introverted space. Your partner can be a part of your introverted world. Things that you do for yourself as an introvert can include your partner if they are considered a safe space. And I'm sure the same is true for extroversion. I'm not an extrovert, so I can't speak to that experience. But, bringing your partner to the outside world may make you feel more introverted and make you feel like you can be a certain type of way in the outside world because your partner is with you. So that kind of changes the dichotomy a little bit. That changes the situation. I'm not going to get into that's too much. But generally, the idea is that if you're an extrovert, you're also going to be a little bit louder. And I don't mean loud as being like too much, but you're going to take up more space. You're gonna naturally have your voice a little bit louder. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm straining a little bit because I have to speak up. But this is my natural voice. So if I'm talking, and usually when I'm at home, I'm a little bit in performance mode, so I'm gonna try to bring it down. But as an introvert, I'm a little bit quieter. So I'll probably speak a little bit more like this. And it's gonna be a little bit away from energy. It's kind of it's more like, whereas extrovert is hey, and there's just going to be more toward energy a lot of the time. My energy is naturally back, and there's Enneagram stuff there too, but that's too much also. So as an introvert, your energy is going to be a little bit more protective, a little bit more reserved. Extroverted energy is going to be a little bit more out, go, loud energy. And that's the funny thing is loud, quote unquote, is going to be normal for an extrovert. They just project naturally. They're trying to take up more space. They're trying to get more feedback from the outside world. So they're just taking up more energy. And if you're an introvert that needs to be in extroverted situations, that's a good thing to consider, is that you might need to speak up. You can't be hi guys, I'm just going to be here. Everyone's what? Say something. Stop mumbling. So you might have to be a little bit of your unnatural side at times. And then extroverts would benefit from also being aware of when they're being too loud and they're banging on things and you're taking up space and you're just why am I chaos? And so being aware of how much space you're taking up sometimes is important to kind of tone it down. You're making some people uncomfortable. It's okay. You don't have to be super quiet and whispery, but just bring it down an octave. It's okay. It's fine. We're cool. So when I'm in an extroverted space, doing these videos, which is why a lot of people confuse me for ENFPs or ENTP rather, or INFJ, it's because I'm using my extroversion, but I'm losing energy by doing this. I'm exhausted. And it's going to be the other way around for extroverts. If extroverts have to be quieter, use your library voices, that's going to be not as fun. That's going to be taking up more of their energy. And there might be feeling things or thinking things, or they're just going to be too bored or relaxed. And it's not what's going to feed them. So someone who's an extrovert giving a presentation might be like very excited and high after it because like that was a great response. Whereas someone who's an introvert would be like, that was great, but now I'm tired and I want to go home. So, that's basically it in a nutshell. So those are super basic interpretations of introvert and extrovert. I'm trying to keep these videos relatively short. So we're going to kind of go through that. As we go through the other things, kind of keep it at a basic level, just so you can kind of follow along and figure out what some of this stuff means. I can already feel the wheels turning in your head around like, oh, okay, so this person's an introvert. This person's an extrovert. Oh, this guy Bobby does this. Like Lakeisha does that. Or like, I don't know, other names of other people does this. So just start thinking about it. When you start thinking about this naturally as you go through it and you start thinking about other people, think about the people in your lives, but take it one step at a time, one letter at a time. Who's an introvert in your life? Who's an extrovert in your life, right? And first of all, this is me protecting the space, meaning everyone's going to have some trauma around different personality types. So I should probably say this here before we go forward, that this is not an excuse to talk crap on the opposite type. So if you're an introvert, like it's not for you to go in the comments and be like, why are extroverts so loud? I don't understand. And for extroverts to go in the comments and the extroverts are probably not going to go in the comments, but if they don't go in the comments, it's not a thing to just be like, well, you guys need to speak up more. Like, this is about discussion. This is not about argument. This is not about victim mentality. This is not about what other people have done to you, but this is about understanding how you can educate people in your lives or educate yourself to be able to see why other people are different. Does that make sense? So we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate you for being here. Dopamine.life, if you haven't checked out the podcast, articles, courses, all of that stuff. There's links below to all sorts of things. If you're an INTP, there's a Q&A book that you can sign up for an email list there as well. So that's it. If you're watching this on email, if you have any questions, you can reply to this email. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Did you learn something new from this so far? And what are your questions around introversion and extroversion? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. And let's continue to share the love and go towards learning styles next.